Hey everyone, and welcome back to another eShop sales highlight video, where basically I'm going to bring you through the first 10 to 15 minutes of gameplay for Blazing Chrome that is currently 60% off on the Nintendo Switch eShop, dropping the price to only $6.79. By the way, when I post this video, you will still have a couple of days to pick the deal up because it'll be running until October 7th. Now, if you don't know what Blazing Chrome is, it is basically a run-and-gun shooter and is almost a spiritual successor to the Contra series. Now, basically, it is based on a 16-bit art style, although it does blend elements that weren't really possible in the 16-bit era, but nonetheless, the gameplay, just fair warning, is very difficult here. So when you do pick up this game, don't feel bad by starting at easy. Today, that's the mode I'll be playing with all of you. I have completed the normal mode, but just because I'll be talking to all of you at the same time, obviously, I'll be playing on easy today. But you will see that easy in this game is almost like a hard mode in some other games. Now, I'll start up a match really quick, and I'll give you a few of the basics before we start playing, because this is a game that will take a decent amount of my focus. So I just started up a match, and the first thing you need to know is that basically the game opens up with 4 available stages. By the way, there's only a total of 6 stages, but trust me, even if this is your first playthrough, it will take at least 2 to 4 hours, depending on your skill level, to make it through the 6 levels. And I would say that's on easy. If you start on normal, I would extend that playtime at least by probably an hour, just because you're going to have to try levels, learn them, and then basically go back in them with that knowledge in hand. However, what's important to know is that you can actually tackle them in any order you want. So today we'll be doing level 1, and maybe we'll make it all the way to the end of level 2. I'll see how much time it takes us. But ultimately, if you want to do any of the levels in whichever order you wish, it's sort of like a Mega Man game in that aspect. So now I loaded up in level 1, and also I forgot to tell you that you generally have a choice of 4 characters. Just fair warning, when you first boot up the game, you'll only have 2 characters available. You do have to finish it on any one of the difficulties, including easy, to unlock the other 2 characters. But I would tell you that if you want a Contra-like experience, those 2 first characters are anyway the ones that resemble the most that series. Now we're going to start playing here, and we're making our way through level 1 here. Basically, the Y will be your fire button. You have a jump button set to B. You will also be able to hit down and B to roll out of the way of incoming damage. And basically, there are a ton of unlockables in this game. So that's the first thing. Here we're getting a shield. So normally this game is a one-hit kill game, meaning that each time you get hit, theoretically, you are going to die. But if you just saw, I just got a power-up that actually gives us a shield for 2 extra hits. So theoretically now, I can take 3 hits before I die. As well as right now, I have a weapon power-up. You can also, by the way, swap between any weapon power-up by simply hitting the X button. As you see at the top left, I'm cycling through my weapons, and I can choose whichever weapon I want. What's also important to note is that when you die, you actually lose the active weapon you're using. So theoretically, if you are about to die and you're quick enough, you can actually swap to your basic weapon to not lose your upgrade. So if you don't think you can get out of the way of a shot, you might not have the time at the beginning with your beginning reflexes, but as you get used to the game, you can actually save your weapons in that way. So as you see, we're going through the level 1 stage, and this weapon, you can actually charge it for a constant beam like you just saw. And this is a game, like I said, I'm playing on easy now. It might look slightly easy, but trust me, this is just because this is a game that I play through on a regular basis, and I also play it normally on the regular difficulty. So you see here, I swapped my power-up. Rather than a shield, I have an attack power-up. But I actually prefer the shield because I'm doing this video and I'm talking to you all at the same time. I want to be able to take a couple of hits before dying. Like, just in contrast, sometimes running is the best strategy here, where sometimes you're going to want to just get out of the way of obstacles rather than actually fighting each and every enemy. Because there's actually no bonus to killing all the enemies, the importance is getting to the end of the stage. At the same time, you don't want too many enemies to accumulate, because that can be a different type of problem. Now we're getting to our first, like, slight beginning boss. but we're going to probably be able to blast him out of the sky pretty easy, especially since we have probably the best weapon against him, which is the grenade launcher. I took a hit there, but like I said, I wanted my shield upgrade to make sure that we were going to be successful. And we passed through our first mini-boss. It's also important to note that each stage is going to be subdivided into different parts. So don't worry, they have put in some modern sort of mechanics to help you progress through this game, meaning that once you've sort of gotten to a checkpoint, if you hit the continue button, you'll have all your full lives back, and you'll only have to start from that last checkpoint. So you can approach the stages sort of in parts if you wish, if the game is becoming too difficult. So there are some modern comforts here to make sure that you can finish the game, even if this is not your general play style, if you're not really into difficult arcade type games. Now we're about to jump into an armor. That's why I paused for a few seconds. The armor is another thing that is really fun in this game. You have a few different types, but basically this will give you also a few extra shots and a major power up. So basically you're still better off trying to take as least shots as possible, because the more of the armor that you save for the end of the game, the more you'll have it for the mini boss at the end. And generally, I will tell you right away that the armors generally always come almost right before a mini boss. So I took quite a few hits there. That wasn't ideal. So I might lose the armor soon, but I think we are still going to make it to the mini boss with the armor intact. So we're going to have a better chance of finishing this first boss simply because we are going to start it with the armor. But as you can see right now, like I said, don't be fooled. This game is actually pretty difficult, and I don't sound like I consider myself to be an average level player. I don't consider myself to be a high level player. It's just simply that this game is a game that I've played on a regular basis. So we are just going to make sure that that doesn't hit us, but that didn't work. So we're going to just try and blast him as much as possible. Now the grenade gives you sort of a area of effect, and we've just beat the first part of this mid-boss. You're going to see, because there's actually a second part to this fight, which we're going to jump straight into. But at least we've still got our shield, so we can still take one hit before dying, and we've got 8 lives to complete this guy. So there is a pretty good chance that I'm going to beat him. By the way, you can hold down the R button. What that does is it lets you aim without moving. So especially when you get to these type of bosses, you're going to want to hold down the R button to make sure that you're hitting him at the right angle. And there I just took a shot, unfortunately. So basically you just have to hit the head till his chest opens up. Once his chest opens up, you go for it, and you just make sure that you move out of the way of his different melee attacks. So we've got probably 1 or 2 cycles left on this, and I just unfortunately took a death there. So we are hopefully going to be able to finish him pretty quickly. And that was our final cycle. So we've actually just made it through level 1. Now, as I said earlier, I don't want to sound, like I said, I don't consider myself to be a high-level player. It just looks fairly easier just because I've played these levels and I pretty much know them by heart. But normally, I would say that the first time you do this level, it will be normal to take 1 or 2 continues till you actually get the game down, till you get the crouch mechanic down and the roll mechanic down to make your way out of the enemy fire. So as I said, we are going to jump straight into level 2, okay? Because level 2 actually has a completely different style from level 1, where we will be riding a sort of hover bike for the beginning of the level. Now this one, I will tell you right away, it is not guaranteed we're going to finish it. I'm going to try my best, but this one does take a few continues sometimes, even though I'm starting to know the level pretty much by heart. So like I said, here you've got guys coming at you from the front and back. Do not forget to hold down that R button, and do not forget to jump with your hover bike if it becomes too difficult, because it will save you sometimes. Now, you see these guys, you have to be careful. You have to basically run under him when he jumps. And now we've got a armored attacker coming. Now he's going to come from the other side. As I said, you can pretty much tell that I know by heart where the different enemies are coming, simply because, as I said, this is a game that I love running through on a regular basis. The nice thing about a arcade style game like this is if you just want some run and gun fun, once you do get the game down, you can probably run through the whole thing in about an hour. Now I just took a death there, unfortunately, so we're starting to run low on our weapon upgrades, but hopefully we'll be able to keep a few intact, and like I said, hopefully we'll be able to knock this level out as well. Now this is a first mini boss, so him we just have to make sure that we're hitting his wing. I took a death there, unfortunately. We have to make sure to move out of the way from his gun when you do see the laser pointer. And we took, unfortunately, there a death to the soldier that was in the flying vehicle. Yeah, we're taking a few here. It's unfortunate because, unfortunately, I lost some of my best upgrades for dealing with these guys. So it was a little rougher than usual. But we made it, and that is the important part, so we can keep going with the video. As I said, I'm pretty much going to run till I hit a continue spot, which might actually not be that long. But honestly, like I said earlier, now you're starting to seeing the difficulty level, because imagine that this is easy. Right now, what you're seeing is easy level. At medium and basically hard, which you have to unlock, you're getting way more enemies. You're getting way more obstacles. Everything is basically multiplied. So we're here at another part of a mid-boss. And like I said, this game loves its mid-bosses. So you're going to get a ton. Pretty much every stage will have 2 or 3 mid-bosses on average. But all it is learning their patterns. And generally, if you do that, you are pretty set to go. So now he's going to pop out his lasers. All we got to do is stay in between the lasers so that we can keep firing at him. And we've got him down. So we are good to go for at least another couple of minutes. Now at the end of the stage, we are done the motorcycle part. So now we are back to our standard run and gun shooting. Now I'm going to take out the last weapon. It's pretty much the only one you haven't seen yet, which is basically this sort of, I would almost call it like a laser whip. So basically, this is much better if you're getting close in with some enemies, and it's actually a perfect part of the stage for that weapon. So we're actually going to swap back to it because there are a lot of enemies coming close up. By the way, if you tap the Y button when you're in melee range, there's also a melee attack that your character can use. So I recommend you abuse that whenever possible. And now these guys we are going to swap because they are difficult to deal with the whip, because unfortunately they're just out of range. So we're going to swap to our regular weapon. I could have swapped to the laser, but honestly, I didn't want to risk losing it because it is very useful for this next part. And I unfortunately just took another death there. And here we go. We are getting pretty close, I think, to the end of stage 2. I have a slight blank how much longer we have to go. But I know that once we get to the run and gun part, there's probably just 1 or 2 sections left. But hopefully by now, you're already seeing whether or not this is a game for you. Basically, if you like Contra-style run and gun shooters, it is an excellent one. And the motions in this game is very fluid, by the way. If you've been seeing how I've been controlling my character, controls are very smooth. And when you die, it really is because you have made a mistake. It is not because the controls are unresponsive here. It is honestly, as I said earlier, one of the best spiritual successors to the Contra series that we have on the Switch. And you know that if you watch the channel on a regular basis, you know that I'm a regular fan of run and gun shooters. And unfortunately there, we just lost our last life. So just to show you what I told you, we're going to pretty much end the video here, but I will hit the continue button. You don't start from the beginning of stage 2. You basically start from where you ended the motorcycle section, so the hover bike section, which is why I said that this game also has a modern approach, making it completable at every level. The only level where you actually don't get that sort of continue sequence is if you try the hard mode. The hard mode, you have to finish the whole level in one set of lives, basically. So we're pretty much there. We're pretty much at the 15-minute mark of our eShop deals highlight video. Let me know if you guys are liking these videos, because I do a vote every week, and this week, this is what won the vote. I do know that Wonder Boy was pretty close, and there's a good chance, you know what, I'll be doing a highlight video on him as well, as long as time permits for this week. I would also like to know, are you going to be picking up Blazing Chrome? Let me know in the comments down below if you do think you'll be picking this game up or not. And as usual, don't forget that if you did like these videos, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you aren't already, and hit the notification bell so you know when all my future videos come out. And as usual, I hope I'll see all of you in my next video.